they hear a lot about cybersecurity, and then when it really hits them, right, then they really realize, we should have done something sooner.
Hi there, welcome back to Moxa Security Talks. My name is Jesse and I'm the host. Today we have invited Thomas Burke to talk about cybersecurity in smart factories. Could you also give us some customer examples on maybe how to mitigate the risks?
So there's been a number of case studies, and actually I've seen a lot of the case studies that you guys have done, basically as well, talking about your Moxa products and some of the case studies you used. And the most interesting thing is there's been a study done by Deloitte, and it's available for download, and it talks about the cyber-related manufacturing incidents that have occurred. And it's scary, because, they certified, and, these things is true. They went and surveyed a lot of different manufacturers. And the interesting thing is they found, about 40% or 4 in 10 manufacturers basically had some sort of operation affected by a cyber-related incident in the last 12 months. That's scary. So, that's a huge number. This isn't an anomaly. This is, a very big thing that's happened. And, if you look back in time, right, it's been going on for a while. There's been a lot of attacks from a ransomware perspective. It's been spoofing. It's been phishing, right? And, the cost of these breaches is huge. When you have one of these things and it ends up, shutting down a factory because of it, right? That's what I call operational disruption. That's a disaster, right? And a lot of them had to do with, and you take a look at the major cyber risks that they came up with. It was either violating, intellectual property, or it was, disrupting the operation, or it was just unauthorized access. Somebody was allowed to change something that they shouldn't have been allowed to change, and it could have been a disaster in a lot of cases. So, there's also a lot of applications, like in robotics, for example. Mitsubishi's been really driving forward and making sure that our robots, basically, and the applications with it, they're doing very dangerous tasks sometimes. For example, I'm working on an automotive assembly line. You can't afford, a repetitive task of, somebody, basically tightening a bolt into something, this thing to go wrong. People can get hurt, right? Not to mention the operation, but people can actually get hurt. And we've done some case studies like that, particularly where different automotive places and different packaging lines have essentially realized, okay, here's what's happening in the robotic industry, and this is why you have to make these secure. So it's not just a matter of configuring the robot to work properly. It's also important that the thing's secure and somebody didn't accidentally change, whether intentional or unintentional, change a setting that affected, basically, and became dangerous, right? I like to talk about AMR and the devices that run around the factory floor. Well, they also have to be secure as well. So you think about a lot of the tasks that are on the shop floor, they really require what I call, time sensitive, right? Potential entry points, though, are my HMI, which is, the human machine interface, and, the robotic arms and other software programs. And if you take a look at the one picture that I have there, it talks about, the machine production network and the plant network. And you see all the different places where, you got to be careful. But, the opportunity is, as long as you have, height managed switches that effectively are secure by design, and the smart switches, right, you can connect all these things together. And, the things that are, important to me, like safety, things are going to be fine because they're going to be secure. So, it's a long answer to everything you're addressing. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of different threats, right? You have the unauthorized access, you have unwarranted programs, and you have what I call denial of service breaches, right? That could lead to disruption or, something happen on the production line. So, the network design that implements what we call, we talked about defense in depth, right? Based on IEC 62443, and Moxa, basically, the routers you guys did, I think it's EDR G9010, really are the first line of network defense. And, your Ethernet switches basically do the secure network access control, and the whole concept of doing microsegmentation with your EtherCAT IPS solution. So you guys can probably talk more about that, but these are the important products that we go endorse because this is very important. Obviously, we got to have ways of connecting up a lot of the different legacy devices. This is a big challenge for the end users, basically, and, they have to be designed to enable, industrial automation functionality. But the problem is they lack security features potentially. So, the things that you're building on top of it, like your serial to Ethernet solutions, right? And based on the 62443 standard, that really enables the serial connectivity to a lot of these legacy devices to be easy and secure. So, it's easy to talk about Moxa because you guys have been cognizant of all the different things that we need to, come forward on. The next thing I've been talking about a lot is this whole concept of TSN, or time-sensitive networking. And, I think there's a really good opportunity there because you're going to have a multitude of networks running on a single wire. And, that's an opportunity to also enhance the network security, coupled with, suppliers like Moxa delivering best-of-breed products that are secure by design. So, I talk about there's a lot of different things, aspects of security. We talk about, I could talk about CIA, which is all about the certification, and I talk about the AAA, which is authentication, authorization, and availability. So these are all things that are, basically very key components in security. So there's a lot to say about this one. You've asked a very short question, but there's a big answer that comes behind it.
Yes, indeed. Every time when people ask you about cybersecurity, I believe when they ask about cybersecurity, they're asking for something that they don't know is actually a part of a very bigger picture. And so you have to go into a lot of details to explain a lot of concept before we can answer those questions. I totally understand. So I was quite shocked when you mentioned 4 out of 10 manufacturers were affected by cybersecurity incidents. And so this kind of gets me wondering, what are on the customer's mind? I mean, what is their main concern? So, for example, you guys have engaged with a lot of different customers in different fields. What is the top security concern that our customers have when it comes to digitalizing their automation process? What are some maybe FAQs that you've heard from customers regarding to cybersecurity, or have they not even considered cybersecurity?
Oh, there's a huge list of things that the customers, are engaged in, and, they hear a lot about cybersecurity, and then when it really hits them, right, then they really realize, we should have done something sooner. And, then the other companies are saying, well, let's be preventative. Let's, make sure something doesn't happen. So the big thing is security and safety in this particular case, particularly in IA or industrial automation, really go hand in hand. So I talked before about that. You think about a robot and you think about the way it's moving around, right? You can affect the safety of an operation, by basically having a breach in security. So that's an important thing that these people are thinking about. The other thing is, they're all using, PLCs, programmable level controllers, and they're using their SCADA systems. I mean, they become so day-to-day important for these people, but what they're expecting is, good grief, we can't afford to have a security breach because we are dependent on this thing. It has to be, reliable, it has to be available, it has to be easy to use, and it has to be, basically secure, because the last thing they want to do is, okay, I lost my SCADA system because of a security breach. So, that's the big thing from a reliability perspective. They become so dependent on this stuff, they can't afford to have downtime, caused by a security breach. They're dependent on the SCADA system, right? If they get a security breach and it shuts them down, they lose tons of money, not to mention the ramifications to the potential product. So the other thing I hear from customers all the time is, well, we understand about security and, we need to know, what we need to do. Well, they want easy ways to configure and, basically add new devices and applications to their networks, right? And, basically that addresses security. So, I talk about this before, customers want to make sure that who's allowed to read the data versus who's allowed to write the data, that, all that's built into the system. So, that's the biggest thing. I mean, some customers are concerned about their competition, getting information, and particularly in cases where, I got a supplier that, is basically, operating with, different end users. They worry about things things like that. They want to make sure that, that's all is secure as well. But the biggest things are, reliability and availability of systems and, basically protecting their investments and providing a mechanism for who's allowed to read the data and who's allowed to write the data, which is that whole AAA concept that I talk about.
I see. So the AAA concept and the access control, who is allowed to read, who is allowed to write, and also security and safety actually go hand in hand. I think this is very, very important when it comes to OT networks, because we see a lot of, we actually on the Moxa side, we see a lot of customers, they are implementing some existing off-the-shelf IT cybersecurity solutions. And I think that it's a big difference between the IT network environment and also the OT one. As you say, a lot of robotic arms, machineries, it's all about safety, actually, maybe even human lives at stake. So if, say, for example, like what you mentioned, the HMI with all the passwords on the sticky notes, maybe they have a reason for doing it, because if something really happens, they need to get access to that machine directly to try to save someone or try to stop something. If they have to enter the passwords, then it's going to waste a valuable time. So I'm just thinking maybe that is why we see some customers, they have some concerns when they are implementing IT off-the-shelf cybersecurity solutions into their OT networks.
Exactly. And I can echo the sentiment. I used to do some presentations at a lot of the conferences I do, and I'd always ask the silly question, well, everyone has a password on their phone. And I quit asking the question, because on a number of cases, somebody'd say, we don't have a password on my phone. What happens if I lose my phone? I want somebody to be able to pick it up and call me. It's like, okay, or call somebody. It's like, okay, got it, but so I don't ask that question anymore. I don't want to know.
I see. Oh, very, very interesting response. Wow. Thank you, Tom, for sharing these interesting facts about cybersecurity. Now, 4 out of 10 is actually quite high, since that's nearly half of the companies. With so much cyber threat going out there, what is the correct way to protect your smart factory? Now, to answer this question, stay tuned to our part 3, where Tom will provide us some recommendations on protecting your assets.